Right. Micah, welcome. How's it going, man?
Thank you. Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in my intro, I did let everybody know that, we have a relationship, business relationship and everything and friendship, and we've known each other for a while. But, you know, aside from that, when I first got on the platform, I found you. For some reason it popped up in the feed. I was like, oh, there's Micah. And you were just posting like crazy and some seriously legit stuff, that I would expect from you about investing and capital
hmm
and all the things that a person that is in your business should be talking about. And I saw it and I thought, man, he's an investor in this whole big thing. I know you well enough to know all the things you're involved in, how busy you are, that I'm like, what in the hell would he be spending so much time doing on this platform? And then you and I spoke a day or so later, and you let me know you're not an investor in this platform, which was like an aha moment for me. I was like, holy cow, there must really be something here if Micah is this invested, time wise into this platform. So what do you think, man?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine, I'm actually invested in his angel fund. He's real connected in the space, kind of spends a lot of time on the West Coast with all those types of startups. And he told me about this several weeks ago. And I went and checked it out, thought it was interesting. I looked at the bonding curve of kind of the distribution schedule of tokens, and I thought, okay, this is cool. I could see this catching on like wildfire. So I put it aside for a few days, and then I came back and the token price was even higher, and I thought, okay, I see where this is going. So I jumped in and invested in it. When I say that, I mean, just put some Bitcoin on the platform, bought some BitClout. And that was all I did for the first few days, just to kind of like test the waters. Once I got more comfortable with the platform and kind of saw, where money was flowing and how it was working, that's when I started investing in the creator coins. And that's when I started posting a lot, because I could see the potential. There were either several hundred active users at that time, or maybe a few thousand. And when you have a platform like this, I've been involved in a bunch of these kind of new platforms that pop up, over the last several years in the crypto space. And if you can get in early and either build a name or figure out the way the platform works, you can do very, very well. So that's the potential I saw. So that's why I started getting pretty active several weeks ago.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I knew that much about you to think that would be the case. But what does it mean for, for the person who, as we see this thing grow, next thing you know, there's 8 million people on it.
Mm-hmm.
What's really in it for the people that are not content creators, not on it to try and generate interest in themselves, but that are just users, like a person that might just follow their Twitter feed and see what is on there?
Yeah, so this is interesting because up until this point, as a general user of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Kick, not Kick, sorry, TikTok, you go on there and you follow all these content creators. They're the ones making money. All the value on that platform is accruing to them, and it's accruing to the shareholders of the platform. If it's a publicly traded company like Twitter, it's accruing to the shareholders, and the content creators like a Kim Kardashian is getting paid per likes or views or whatever. With this, it's fascinating because you can earn money either as a content creator, but on the flip side, as you mentioned, what do you do if you just like following and seeing these things? You can invest in those content creators and actually, a value will accrete to your account the more popular or better content they produce. So that's an interesting thing. You've never been able to directly invest in content creators in this manner. So I think that opens up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, is it just quite simply gives the person who's uh, bend the product for YouTube and Twitter now to become, to be monetized themselves.
Yeah. So it's
meaning the user data, that we're all products of Facebook and the like.
Yeah, so I view it kind of like, and I wrote about this on my feed, but to me, it's taking like what I already do as an angel investor and investing in startups. It's taking that a step further and more personal, where you're investing directly in the individual. So there's a lot of times I'll see on Twitter or Instagram or whatever a product or startup that I really, really like and think, oh man, it would have been awesome to have been able to back them. But those are all private deals. Same for individuals. There are people I see in the crypto space. They either just started a podcast or they started, releasing charts and analysis that is a really, really high quality content, and they're young and kind of undiscovered. And so I'll follow them. And I would think, man, it would be great to have been able to invest in whatever platform it is, whether it's their podcast show or their charting software or whatever it is. And now with BitClout, you can actually directly invest in the things that you feel have the most value on that platform. And as a user of it, you're gaining value at just having access to it and viewing it, but also gaining value from everyone else investing in that as well and using it. So it's like you become an angel investor in people rather than products and startups. Which again, there might be other platforms out there that have tried this. I'm not sure, but this one is the first one I've seen come across my desk that has caught on this quickly and has this much traction out of the gate. That's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And, knowing what you've been involved in, which, I'm sure people can find if they go check out your, websites, which are sf2capital.com. Would that be a good place to go see some of what you're involved in? Yeah.
Yeah. S2F Capital is my fund, digital asset fund. There we invest in liquid digital assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. XSquared Ventures is where we've done a lot of our angel investing. I've done a lot of angel investing through that, and also just personally.
Right. And just even, I haven't caught up with you in a while, and I looked at that the other day and I was like, holy cow, you guys are way into a lot of projects. So, I bring that up to say, if you're interested in learning more about what Micah's involved in, that's a good place. But at the same time, it's just I'm just pointing out that this is somebody who's been a savvy investor in this tech and crypto world for a long time and has been very successful. So, what do you now, knowing that, and your network's important, what do you think your network of contacts thinks of your involvement with this at this stage?
So I'm in a group. It's kind of a think tank. There's about 20 of us. Everyone's a builder or founder or some sort of executive in the space. And it's interesting. We have a very, very small population of those 20 individuals that has either looked at BitClout or even gotten on it. And that tells me pretty early, because all these guys are they're early movers in everything in the space. So that is kind of a barometer of how early we are, in my opinion. A handful of them have either gotten on the platform and started investing in creator coins or just investing directly into BitClout. And then I would say several of them are aware of the platform, but slightly dismissive or just not really interested. They might be distracted by NFTs right now or something else happening in the space. And then there's the other probably 20 or 30, 40% of the group that has just not been following at all. So that kind of tells me, among early movers in this space, kind of where we're at. And so none of them have, outright said, hey, this is a scam. I think we're past that. Now it's to be determined. We don't know what the founders are going to do, with this technology and with the treasury. They're now sitting on, I checked today, it looks like, over $225 million raised. So there's that big question mark. It's
liquidity. That's liquidity injected in through Bitcoin.
Correct. You can see the amount of Bitcoin injected into the, sent into the address for the BitClout treasury. And it's north of 200 million right now. So that's a big pot. You know, there have been projects in the past that raise a bunch of money, anonymous founders, and then they start building a product and disappear. We've seen that a handful of times. And so that's where people are very, very quick to say, okay, you know, this smells like a scam, especially when you have anonymous founders. I think there is a good reason why they've been anonymous so far. I think it's smart. We don't know exactly. We can presume who the founders are. We don't know how big the team is yet. But all that said, it's kind of to be determined what they do with that treasury. And so if they're responsible with it and they give back to the community and do things and build products and, you know, bring it to market, which, you know, by proxy, I'm aware of some of the team members and how they are. And it sounds like, you know, they're actually building a real product. And these are world-class engineers from what I can tell. So that's good. To me, that tells me that this is legitimate. You know, they're going to be fiscally responsible with what they're raising. So all that said, when I hear people on Twitter or in different circles like, hey, this is an outright scam, I don't feel it is. It doesn't seem that way. I think a lot of folks had kind of a knee-jerk reaction of like, hey, I don't like my likeness on this platform. You know, I went on there and saw that, you know, they copied my profile from Twitter and I'm on here now. You know, it's really bothersome. That's going to happen, you know, with any of these startups in the space, especially. There's kind of a, you build it and ask for forgiveness rather than for permission.
Yeah.
I mean, half of the projects in this space would never have come to fruition had they asked for permission. They just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, this is an ecosystem that is known for pushing the bounds and having to ask for forgiveness as they innovate. And so I think BitClout's a great example of that. Now you have a bunch of individual people who might be, you know, upset about that and, you know, issuing cease and desist letters, which we've seen before. That's going to happen. It's not a big deal, in my opinion. It doesn't mean it's a scam. So that's my opinion on that. And kind of the opinion of those in my circle are, you know, it's not a scam, but it's definitely still like a to be determined whether this thing really takes off and ends up being a great, you know, investment for those that have come in and those that are in right now. You know, you have a lot of very early venture capitalists and angels that came in. So people are a little upset about that, but I mean, show me any project that's come to market that didn't have, you know, folks that were in early and benefited from that. I mean, that's the case with pretty much every startup you've ever seen. You know, that's the case with pretty much every crypto token. Bitcoin was fairly distributed, but you still have folks that literally got in day 1, day 2, day 3, and are sitting on, you know, billions of dollars in Bitcoin or hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin. That's totally fine. I think that's fair. If you're close to the source, you benefit from that. So that doesn't really bother me about this project. You know, the one concern I think from a lot of people is what are they going to do with those profits? I could totally see, and this is what I wrote about on my wall the other day was, you know, when they open up the ability to withdraw and get liquidity, what does that look like? Are these early investors going to sell their tokens? Are they going to sit? So that's again one of those to be determined things. But I'm not so much worried about it being an outright scam, and I'm not so much worried about early investors just completely abandoning the project, you know, taking their money and leaving.
Yeah, it's just I guess it'll be all about the timing.
I totally agree. I think the team's very smart. I think they will likely bring this thing to market in the right way. We've had, you know, in this space, we've had a lot of prior experiments that you can kind of glean from and see what works, what didn't. And so I expect the team to be able to kind of look back and figure out how they want to structure this. I think the way they took it to market was really, really quite awesome. I think it was genius.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't expect
mysterious.
anything less.
Certainly
Yeah,
mysterious.
Totally. Yeah.
And I guess several things about it have been intentionally mysterious. That, you know, we all need some conspiracy theories to talk about, I guess. So, you know, I think a lot about what a regulator is potentially going to be, you know, seizing upon I mean, it's a little early maybe for them to even to be on their radar yet. But, this is this seems like it could really venture into insider trading and market manipulation type territory that they love
On the
to.
creator coins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm not super familiar with the law, but as I understand it, like in the art world, art is not a security. And so when you get into the NFTs, and this is something that, again, is kind of a to be determined thing from regulators, like how are they going to handle NFTs? Because that's where this gets interesting when you're kind of like creating art or you're tokenizing oneself. Is that a security? Is it not? I know that when you tokenize art or you tokenize, I've seen platforms that like tokenize ownership of like classic cars, for example. The security, the tokenization part of that, owning a piece of it, is a security. So that's where this gets interesting. Is like, if you tokenize yourself, is that a security or not? And then how do you regulate that? How do you prevent people from tokenizing themselves? And how do you do that in a regulated manner? It's crazy. I don't know.
That's what I think concerns me most, is it could get some countries so just flummoxed by the whole thing that they just say, we're going to just start putting people in jail and we're going to shut this down.
Yeah. They're still stuck on like everything that happened in like 2016, 2017 with the ICO. Like, that's the thing with regulators, is like they're usually years behind, and with technology, it moves, parabolically. So they're still dealing with, issues and regulations that are multiple years old. And then you just pile this on top. I mean, I don't know how they're going to keep up in a responsible manner. Like you said, there's often these like knee-jerk reactions because they're like, we don't know what's going on. We don't like this. We're not comfortable with it. We've heard some people have lost money. So just ban the whole thing.
Yeah.
That happened in 2016, 2017. And then they backed off. Since then, there have been some safe harbor kind of regulations that have come about to kind of allow people to innovate in the sandbox without getting in trouble. That might have to happen here, where it's just like, we don't know how to handle this right now. And so we're going to create a sandbox where people can innovate in it, but you have to play within these rules. That might happen. What I hope doesn't happen is the common knee-jerk reaction from regulators where they just say, the hell with it, we're just going to ban this. Because that creates a regulatory arbitrage. When you do that, people will move to other countries, the innovation will move to other countries. And so the US in particular will lose their innovative advantage that they typically have in technology. People will go and start building these things in Switzerland, like they did with the tokenization event. So they'll go to Singapore or Panama or wherever, Cayman Islands. That's not what you want.
Right. And so what do you think about like New York, for instance? Like, they make it hard enough for people just to buy Bitcoin. And what do you think will happen here? Or what, like with KYC, AML, anti-money laundering, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I think, good question. I think the biggest risk with a platform like this is less SEC risk. The SEC is notorious for coming around and giving fines, slapping people on the wrist. When you start talking about like AML KYC, that gets into like the FinCEN territory and DOJ and New York Department of Financial Services. Those are the folks you don't want to mess with. You do not want to, get on their bad side. SEC, you can deal with them. They're more friendly, more reasonable. When you start talking about DOJ and FinCEN, that's where you can get in a lot of trouble. I mean, that's like what's been going on with BitMEX right now and some of the other exchanges, where they just had very crappy or very little AML KYC policies in place, and now they're paying the price for that. That would be my fear for something like this, is what have these folks done, these folks being the founders, to ensure that funds being sent into this platform are run through some sort of chain analysis. Even if, very, very like, basic chain analysis to make sure you're not taking in any dirty funds. Forget even like checking people's, driver's licenses or passports or anything like that. Just a simple chain analysis on all the funds coming in and rejecting transactions that are dirty. That's a step in the right direction. I think that would be a very smart way of doing it. But if you willingly or knowingly take funds, for money laundering purposes, by somebody else, that's not good. And that would not be good for the platform. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but my hope is that they're going to be filtering that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to think some of these big giant VCs that have jumped into this have been pretty vocal and involved in what that is. Like,
And that's,
A16Z, I can't imagine they're not like,
I agree.
though they would be the type of people that would get carted off to jail by a cranky regulator.
Yeah, there's definitely risk there. And that's one thing that gives me some comfort in all of this, is knowing who some of the backers are and saying, okay, well, if their due diligence team is okay with this, making a direct investment in this, if they're okay with this, then there's some level of, legitimacy with what's going on from a regulatory standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's, I think without that, at least that much knowledge of this thing, I think most people would shy away from it.
Yeah. And so to kind of follow on that, the way to launch a project in today's world, especially when it's pushing the bounds, is you either go fully anonymous and you launch it as a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, or you don't, and you just try and follow, as many of the rules as you can and ask for forgiveness along the way. Because if you're not fully anonymous, then there's always a throat to choke. They'll come after someone. So you either have to go like all the way in one bucket or all the way in the other, in my opinion, or have enough of a treasury to defend yourself when you need to get out of trouble, which is what a lot of these big projects have done. They've just, they've raised a lot of money and now they can afford lobbyists or regulator, legal defense against regulators to kind of figure out, okay, yes, sorry, we messed up, but how do we fix this? And, what new rules can we put in place to kind of allow us or the space to innovate in this way? We've seen that so many times.
Yeah. It's like, it makes me think of some quote I heard. I might get this backwards, but someone saying the best thing Satoshi Nakamoto ever did was remaining anonymous. The second one was creating Bitcoin. It may have been the other way around, but those were two brilliant ideas. So,
true.
So we've talked about the fear and uncertainty and doubt part of this, the FUD. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about possibilities. Like, what do you see as being some of the most exciting things that you didn't even think of until like the past week that could happen here, on this platform?
So first off, let's talk about the BitClout token itself. If you look at the distribution schedule, I've got it posted on my wall, and I don't know how accurate it is. It came through one of my sources that I think got it from some related source from the team. But anyways, if it's following that distribution schedule, it relates market cap to token price. And so right now, I think we're probably somewhere shy of $1 billion based on the token price. We might be at like 850 million to 900 million, somewhere around there. Again, I could be totally wrong on this. This is just based on that schedule. For a platform like this in a bull market when they've launched, I mean, the timing couldn't have been better. I could see this easily trading up to 10 billion or north of 10 billion. It is truly unique.
Overall market cap.
Overall market cap.
Yeah.
I could see it trading up to that, this year in the middle of this bull run. It's truly unique. I mean, we have all sorts of different tokens. We have DeFi tokens, we have exchange tokens. I mean, you name it, we've got it. Privacy, all that. And so this is one area where it's been underserved and it's unique. So what is that worth? I don't know. But I'll tell you, different sectors like the platform tokens that we see on CoinMarketCap that people are building applications on top of, which I would consider this a platform. Those are trading, those are generally, for the larger ones, they're $5 billion market cap on up to Ethereum, which is 220 to 250 million. So that tells me something like this has a lot of legs to it if the adoption catches on and people really kind of figure out what's happening here. So that, to me, out of the gate, just buying into the BitClout token and sitting on it for a while, assuming this growth, this hockey stick growth we're seeing continues, I think people are going to do very, very well just sitting on the BitClout token itself. I look at the BitClout token as kind of the Bitcoin of the platform. And then I look at the creator coins as altcoins.
All right. So I want to stop you there just so you can clarify, what about it, like for the uninitiated in the bonding curve or part of this, or like in more simple terms for people, how they understand how the price of this exponentially increases at certain thresholds. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so a bonding curve is essentially the distribution schedule of a token. So it's basically how much money in drives the token up by how much price. It's just a simple algorithm that the platform uses. And so looking at that,
but for me, when I read it, it was every million tokens distributed, the price doubles, right?
Yes.
But it's more incremental than that. It's more of a
right
curve
now, it is. Let me see. I'll pull up on my.
I'll pull up your screen. I'm going to pull up your on the screen. I'm here looking at your.
Yeah, if you'll scroll down to where you see a screenshot of the spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, that's probably a while back. You've been pretty prolific on this thing. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
I saw that one.
So if you look at this, we're at, I don't know, $150, $160 per BitClout. So that's the left column. And then the market cap is in the middle. And then that's the number of tokens on the right. So we're somewhere around, we're between 7 million and 8 million tokens in circulation. Now, I have read, someone did some like chain analysis on the platform. It looks like there was like an 8 million coin pre-mine done. So I don't know how that relates to this, but I think this is a matter of like how many tokens are in circulation. So if you look here, our token price is between the $102.40 range and the $204.80 range. So there's the doubling. Mm-hmm. So we are somewhere shy of $1 billion is what I was getting at earlier. So to drive us up to, 10 billion market cap would be a price somewhere around maybe like $1,300, $1,400 per BitClout.
Wait, say that again, because I was about to ask something else.
So I'm just showing you what the price of BitClout would be if we were to say reach 10 billion market cap this year. That would mean the token price would be somewhere between $819 and $1,638, right, which likely would be around like $1,300 or $1,400. I haven't done the math, but that's what it looks like. And so $10 billion, 10 billion market cap is kind of an arbitrary number I've picked, but I'm just saying that I could totally see it hitting that this year in the middle of a bull market with the type of traction we're seeing going on and the fact that it's unique. I would not be surprised.
I tend to disagree. I'm more bullish, I think. And I only say that because I just think there's going to be such massive like FOMO on this. Not so much FOMO in the form of people jumping in as oh my God, I got to buy that thing. It's more, I think it's going to come in the form of these influencers are going to see their market cap that's sitting there awaiting them and just piling in. Like it's going to be 1 or 2 1 week and 10 the next and 100 the next type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all going to be
I could see that.
And I, just, you get in these clubhouse rooms and stuff, and I'm, of course people are hyping, but I heard a guy the other day just talking about how he's involved with a lot of influencers and working right now to get them on. They're almost like
I
the
think you're
institutional investors. They can't just, apparently for whatever reason, it's not a, hey, I'm just going to go get on my phone and do this. It's more of a strategy they start thinking through. And I don't really know if I understand it.
Yeah, you're going to see the influencers, they'll be first because they can kind of operate autonomously. I mean, some of them, like the really big ones, have legal teams and they're going to have to look at this. But the corporations, I expect, like the big corporate brands, are going to be kind of last to the show, simply because there's so much red tape for them to be able to get on something like this.
Well, they've got to think about custody.
That too. Yeah, right now, I mean, there's no safe way to store this value. So you have a seed phrase and that's it. There's no cold storage or anything. And again, there's a lot of unknown risks around what, who the team is and what they're going to do and how this is going to, be released to the wild. So there could be some damage to a brand if they were to go claim their profile and start building it up. And then all of a sudden, as the terms used in the industry, there could be a rug pull or a rug where the founders, abandon the project and whatnot. Now, the interesting thing about something like this is if the code is open sourced, in the event that, founders left, if the code is at least open sourced, I think we have enough traction at this point, people would pick it up and carry on. And they would just continue to build the project without the founders needing to be there. I think I don't know that we're there yet. To my knowledge, the code is not open source. I know that the blockchain, like you can look at the block explorer, all that's public, but the code itself, I don't think is public. So, if the founders were to leave right now, it would be toast. But I would assume they're going to open source it pretty soon.
Yeah. So custody wise, I start thinking about, it's hard enough for me as an individual to think about safeguarding keys. And the more value involved, that becomes more urgent. But what do you think about the possibility of pick any major influencer? We'll use an athlete, maybe. We'll say LeBron James. I don't know how many tens of millions of followers he may have. And all of a sudden his coin, he's got a market cap on this platform of $40 million. It's not inconceivable.
Yeah.
But he's just treating his keys to the platform like he might treat his credentials to Twitter, which isn't enough. And he probably has great safeguards on that as well, I would hope. But because nobody wants their Twitter hacked, especially a guy like that. But what if his keys get stolen and his BitClout gets liquidated into Bitcoin and off it goes? That to me is one of the big news stories of the year.
Absolutely. So right now it's pretty safe because it's a closed system. It's centralized, so they could actually reverse transactions if something like that were to happen. That's the beauty of a closed loop system. But what you're talking about is when the platform actually is public and withdrawals are available and all, whole 9 yards.
Right.
That's where it gets really risky, like you said, because as soon as it's compromised and tokens leave the platform in the form of Bitcoin or whatever, it's gone.
Yeah.
So when you have a platform like this, which is really meant to bring in the masses, like you said, one of the folks you had on your platform recently was not a crypto guy before this, so he's kind of new to the space. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of artists and musicians and those types of influencers joining. They're kind of some of the early adopters in this. Like, there's a lot of like entrepreneurs and tech guys and crypto guys and everything. They're pretty familiar with that. But when you start having artists and musicians and performers and celebrities joining, like you're starting to see now, a lot of them are crypto naive. And so I think that it's smart for the team to build this in kind of a walled garden right now.
Yeah.
To kind of keep it's like having the bumper rails on. So that in the event of hacks and issues, they can roll back the chain and fix that.
Well, I think it's certainly they've got to think about custody. How are they going to, will there be a multi-sig part of this for a brand? It's like, even on a small scale, if you and I decided to go in on a venture on this, either one of us could run off with the keys, or liquidate.
Absolutely.
And we've got to have some sort of rock solid agreement or protocol that we can follow, so that we are protecting ourselves and each other. Magnify that by a multi-billion-dollar brand and boards of directors and governance and compliance. It's going to be crazy. That's part of why I'm enjoying doing this, just watching this thing unfold and talking to people about it.
Yeah, the more we talk about this, the more I realize that this thing is going to have to be, it's just going to have to be centralized to some degree for a while. Because you also, they can decentralize in a way of kind of like how Ripple has done it. Some of these like centralized, decentralized platforms, whereby you have, node operators who are other individuals or other corporations or companies. And so they're upkeeping the network and they're getting paid to do that. They're kind of the miners or the, block producers. But you have a centralized team or foundation or organization that has at least some amount of, 51% consensus control, or they have some sort of agreement with some of the other block producers. I mean, this is like what EOS has done, where they can collectively come together and vote and roll back things. I think that's what you're going to have here. This cannot be fully decentralized like Bitcoin. I just don't see how that'll work, at least at this point in the game, because you do have to be able to protect against large hacks like that. You also have to be able to filter content that's like illegal. There are, there's some, video or photo content that would just be straight illegal. You've got to be able to get that. You got to be able to prune that off the platform. Years ago, I worked with a privacy platform that was building a peer-to-peer decentralized marketplace. And the biggest thing that regulators, with our legal counsel kept coming back to was, you have to have a way to remove illegal goods. There's no way around that, because otherwise the team or the block producers are culpable in that, in the event of something illegal. So there either has to be a pruning mechanism where you can flag things and it gets deleted, or there has to be a council where they can go in and vote to remove things or remove people. So I know you're going to have that sort of governance on this platform. You're not going to have like the Bitcoin's decentralization. You just can't, at least not right now.
Very interesting. So, all right, man. I sure appreciate the time. I'm pretty sure you and I need to go get some barbecue again pretty soon, or
I'd love
have
to.
a steak. Come out here by me where this steakhouse I've been bragging about is for a while. We need to.
We need to.
Come on, man. All right. Micah Spruill, thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. It's been fun.